Hello, welcome back to this series on the Pisces North Node. My name is Carly, and welcome to my channel, Owning Authenticity. I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation about the dance between the practical and the magical. Okay, and I am manifesting with my higher self something that is so fun right now. It is like so alive. It feels like there is a manifestation that has been gestating for years, like maybe my whole life has been walking in this direction to like land at this moment in time. And it is such a dance between the practical and the magical, the intuition, the like higher self messages, and the planner, organizer. How am I going to do that? How does that work? When's it going to happen? Where's it going to be? What's it going to look like? Like actually creating it in the physical, and the dance between the two and the relationship between the two and the spaciousness within our being that allows for both to coexist and co-create together. And so I want to spend just a little bit of time and unpack this in the context, in the lens of the Pisces North Node and Virgo South Node transit that's happening for 18 months between the beginning of 2025 and the middle of 2026. So this also, I would say, goes for any of you who are watching these that are a natal Pisces North Node, like me. Welcome. Wave your little freak flag so the others can find you. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're a natal Pisces North Node, it's kind of like this is the dance that you signed up to do in this lifetime, the dance between the practical and the magical. And I want to just nerd out and get excited about the pure creative potential that this kind of transit is, that this kind of placement, if it's in your chart, like it is a powerhouse of you are capable of like creating what look like miracles. When other people like behold what it is that you're capable of, it bends reality as far as stretching what they thought was possible. When you are like really spiraling upward into the higher octaves of what is possible, when you will allow the magical to dance with the practical. Okay, when you have room for both at the table and they love each other and they just can't quit just doing it together, like as far as what is your higher self telling you? What is your intuition telling you? What are your psychic senses telling you? What are the little bubbles of truth that are surfacing from your subconscious? However you like to think about it. What's the magical part? What's the dream? What's the fantasy? What's the goal? What's the vision? What do you want? How do you want it to be? It's your movie. You can make it however you want it to be. Okay, this is the Pisces North Node. This is the tapping into Pisces energy, where that is in the interconnectedness of the all. It's the non-physical. It's the infinite energy that we are all a part of. It's the one, like the divine universal one. And where everything blends back together. There's no boundaries. There's no separateness between anything. It's all just one. You are me and I am you. We're just one. There's only one higher self. In Pisces energy, when you travel back up, like when you swim to the root of your soul and you travel back up into who you really are, you are God. Your source energy. You're the same as the energy that created this entire world. And in that, you are infinite. Right? Like I am infinite. I'm doing a Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation challenge. Today's day 2, and it's going really great. But it's on Spotify or YouTube. It's totally free. You could do it whenever you want. But today's day 2, and the centering thought was, I create my true abundance from an infinite source, right? Like the core of who I am is infinite. So inside the core of who I am, there is no limitation of possibility, meaning that there is infinite possibility. Pure creative potential is the core of who you are. Okay, this is Pisces energy. This is like what Pisces energy represents. And when the North Node is in Pisces, the North Node is the destiny point. It's what our soul is practicing at this time. It's like if you imagine, like, you know, back in when I was in middle school, we would have like 8 periods a day where, you know, 8 times a day you go to a classroom and you sit there and you learn math for 50 minutes, and then you get up and you go to a different classroom and you learn science, and then you get up and you go to the gym and you have PE. It's like that. And the North Node is like that too, where like basically there's a soul curriculum that we're engaging in either as a collective, right? Like during the transit, like beginning of 2025 to the middle of 2026, the entire collective is sitting in the Pisces classroom, is sitting in this spiritual, watery, no boundaries. We're just dissolving all the limits. We're dissolving all the separation, and we're coming back into our unity. We're coming back into like true connection. Like connection with what? With what you really are, right? Like connection to the all. Connection to the thread of energy that connects you to everything else. Okay. And some of us with it in our North Node, we're doing this our whole life, you know, of like leaning into this dimension where anything is possible. There is only pure possibility. So when we go there into the place of pure possibility, we can see some pretty incredible things. And then, right, like when you have the dream, and then the very next thought is you trying to take the dream and bring it into the 3D, and we start asking how. Or we immediately discern that I don't know how to do that. And a lot of times it can even sound like that's not possible, right? Which is just code for I don't know how to do that yet. And I may not even know that I could learn how to do that yet, but you know, I may not realize that I don't know that. We often don't know what we don't know. But when we take the magical and we try to ground it into the physical, when we try to engage the practical, often, I mean, this is an opposition, right? Like any of the sister signs, they do have this like higher harmony, but when you get down into like the nitty gritty of trying to combine these energies, there's an art to it. There's a kind of a mastery to it as far as like it's a practice. It's something that we become more and more aware of, and we intentionally learn how to blend this dream fantasy into the earth realm. And so this is what I want to talk about, is like maybe a little bit of like really the how of like, how do you manifest your vision? How do you create your vision, your dream in the practical, right? And this is, you know, often in that kind of a conversation, the dream is like up on a pedestal almost. And like that the practical is like its servant, you know, like that my human is a servant of my soul, or like my efforts are in service to this dream. And I would say like yes, and like a real quick and yes, and of like the dream is also in service to your practical abilities. Okay, it's like giving you something that is like the most meaningful thing you could be doing with your limited time in this particular dimension, this physical dimension, right? Like the physical dimension, it's all about limitation. That's the whole point of coming here, is that it's a single linear now moment where there's only one point of focus that we each get to have in any given now moment. So you have to choose. You have to choose how to spend your time. And things in the physical, they grow by one cell dividing into two, and two cells dividing into four, and four cells dividing into eight. And this is how things grow in the physical. It takes time. It takes a sequence of now moments to unfold in order, and that builds things in the physical. And so that skill set of what do you know how to do in the physical? Like, what practical abilities do you have? And I have an exercise, I'll link it in the description box, that's called Toolbox of Traits. And it takes like maybe 15 minutes, not quite, to take a moment to take stock of 16 different types of skills or practical abilities that you have. That I know for a fact that you have at least one thing in every one of these 16 categories. And so that's laid out for you if you want to check that out. Again, I'll put the link in the description box. Because it's worth it to understand the practical abilities that you have. And then, when we think about the practical earth realm where we do have to choose one single point of focus in any given moment, like we can only give our attention to one thing in any given moment. And what are you going to choose? Because this is where free will comes into the picture. This is where our empowerment comes into the picture. This is also where our social conditioning and the deconditioning that we have consciously created for ourselves all comes into the picture. Because the way we choose to spend our time is the most creative masterpiece we will ever work on. And a lot of people, I'm sure there are many who live in a similar ballpark to where I'm at, as far as like the things you choose to spend your life on. Like, that time, every single moment is a brush stroke on the canvas of who you are. And how on purpose are you with the things you choose to apply yourself to? Which is to say, like, the things that you devote your practical abilities, like, are they going somewhere where you feel like your soul is being enriched in the process? I had a job in my 20s that I'm very, very grateful for. I made good money, and I learned how to save money from my parents. And I mean, I spent 5.5 years in a job where I set myself up for freedom to be able to make some choices that I could afford to make, as far as giving myself time to explore becoming an entrepreneur, and giving myself time to explore deepening into my spiritual practices and my spiritual business, etc. And while I worked at that software company in my 20s for those 5.5 years and had financial abundance, let's just say, I was also getting more and more miserable, like, as the money just kind of stacked up there, and as I went to work every day and felt the culture of, like, how are we going to make more money this year than last year? And then the day-to-day of, like, how we went about doing that, and the way the pricing model was set up as far as like who's paying for all of this. And then being on the phone with those people and hearing their stories, and it's their money that's like stacking up in my bank account, and like I don't feel good about that. I don't feel like we're making their life better. I really don't, you know? And am I okay with that? Like, I'm taking home money that is creating an impact in the world that kind of makes me feel just a little bit queasy to my stomach. Am I okay with that? And for me, I mean, that feeling was basically there for like 5 years. You know, I saw pretty quickly like who these people are and what they're doing. And, you know, I'm not even going to say no shame, because I do have some shame, but I'm not going to hide it. As far as like, I saw what it was, and I took advantage of the opportunity of where I was. And, you know, let's not get sidetracked in that part of the story, because it is what it is. And I decided what I decided, and those decisions of staying there for 5.5 years and feeling like every time I went to work and sat in my chair, it was like sucking my soul out of my body a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And when it got to the point where I was in, you know, kind of a low point in my work, I was in a low point in my personal relationship, and there was like a, I can't live like this anymore kind of moment of realizing that something had to change. And I had a spiritual awakening. I committed to doing self-care every day for the rest of my life. I found Abraham Hicks and the Louise Hay deservability treatment, like all in a 48-hour period. Okay, this was in July of 2016. And since then, this whole like dance of the practical and magical, like Abraham Hicks taught me how to hear my intuition. And turns out I was already pretty intuitive. And I think that's like really when a lot of people tap into like really trusting their intuition. They realize like, well, I mean, I've been getting these messages the whole time. I just like didn't know that they were like, you know, supposed to be the ones that I followed, because we have all kinds of messages like from our head and from society, and which is, you know, in our head, and like whatever, like all of it can be very chaotic, and like figuring out like how to recognize the version of our intuition and that inner voice and the voice of truth, like how to recognize that. And for me, when I feel a vision or have a thought that makes me feel relaxed, where like it feels like relief, I take that as truth. When it gives me chill bumps on my skin that like tingle and like a really like, yeah, I take that as truth. Sometimes there's like a feeling out of my stomach that just like ripples through my whole body. I take that as truth. If it excites me, if it makes me smile, if I start talking out loud because the conversation that I'm seeing is so real, like I know exactly like what I'm going to say, and I talk out loud and like have this conversation, I take that as truth. Like, you really do need to like personalize your own relationship with your intuition, and like how does it communicate with you? Like, how do you feel it? How do you feel the truth? Because fear is also talking, and our practical part is also talking as far as how are we going to do this? When's it going to happen? Like, what else do I need to reprioritize to make space for, like, details? Okay, getting in the details. And that's really where we get into the dance of like, how do you take this dream from this totally limitless place and ground it in a place of details? And what I will like summarize it as is like learning to feel the details. Okay. Because if you start, like when you start bringing the dream down into the 3D, I would recommend going really slowly. Okay. Like be in the feeling. And then a layer of detail will reveal itself. Like it's probably very general. It's probably very vague. Okay. And if that layer of detail, like if it feels good or it's relaxing you or like whatever it is that your version of the truth is, like if that's truth, and stay there because truth feels really good, and at least in my world, feels really good, stay there, another version of detail will be revealed to you. And I think the part where the dance can get really tripped up is when our practical part wants to sit down and in an hour write out a whole plan for the whole thing. And if we can't write out a whole plan for the whole thing, then we can't move because we don't know what's going on. And it don't work like that. Okay, in my experience, right? Which is all any of this ever is like one lady's opinion. And so when I allow it to go like this, when I allow it to sink down into reality, one layer at a time, one good feeling layer at a time, what ends up happening is that you can see from where you are that either there are no next steps to be taken right now, okay? Sometimes you're standing on a stepping stone on the path and you are standing there and there's like literally nowhere to go, or maybe there's like a stepping stone right behind you that's like where you're coming from. So like the only place to go from this stepping stone is backwards, or quick little or. You could either go backwards or you could stand still. You could stand still and appreciate the leading edge of where your clarity has gotten to appreciate how good feeling this vision really is, right? Like stand still and be in the frequency of the feeling of the vision. Okay, it feels really good there. And so stand still and feel really good. And in that emitting and emanating of that frequency from that leading edge point, there is this inevitable emergence of a next step from where you are to move towards more of things that feel like how you just emanated that energy, that frequency, right? So then there's a next step and you move to that next step, and from that step, again, you can either go backwards or you can sit still and feel that leading edge and really like emanate the energy of that. And then there's a next step that will reveal itself. And so do you need to know the whole plan in advance? Like, do you need to be able to sit down and like write out like a 400 step plan of how you're going to do the thing? Or can you feel the feeling of where you're pointing yourself at? Feel the feeling of the vision, feel the feeling of the future that you are magnetizing. And to then allow that next step to present itself. And at that point, the practical is right there, ready and able and excited to get to put their hands in the clay and sculpt whatever that particular individual next step. Like it's got action. It's like, okay, well now we're taking a step forward, and now we're in this new place, and we got this new thing, and I got this new like, and then we did it like that, and like there's some action there, right? So let the practical part do its thing, and then the dance, the ebb and the flow. Then we come back into the beauty of our leading edge and the delight / ecstasy of the vision that we are pointing ourselves at. And we take advantage of the ebb and flow between the magical and the practical. Sometimes it's time to just dream the dream. Sometimes it's time to just like rest in that frequency and allow yourself to have it. That's you anchoring that frequency into your reality. That's you choosing to be on that timeline, which will reveal inevitably the next step that you are then aligned with taking. But like, you know how they say, like, some doors won't open until you're the version of you who's meant to walk through them. And so, like, that's where I'll leave you as far as like the timing of all of this and the timing of figuring out how to manifest your vision. And like, one of the key things to remember when we're trying to travel through this portal between the infinite, non-physical, interconnected all, where anything is possible, we can have whatever we want, it's your movie, you can make it however you want, you know, that sounds really trite when you actually try to bring it down into the physical, the world of limitation, and you're like, but how? You know? What I want to say about that is two things. Number one, it is absolutely possible because you wouldn't be able to see it if the cooperative components were not present inside the 3D reality. So it is absolutely possible. If you can see it, it's possible, period. That is my truth. That is what it is in my reality. I invite you to try that on like a shirt and see if you like how it fits you. And if you don't, then take it back off and find a shirt that fits you, you know, like your belief system. That's like a creative expression of like what feels good to you, what feels right to you. So that's number one. It's absolutely possible. And number two, that the timing of this dream unfolding for you is affecting more than just you, right? Like there's others involved. There's like a bigger picture of the cooperative components that are present in the 3D getting ready to be ready to be ready for being woven in and woven together to create this bigger dream that you have. So your dream is absolutely possible, and the timing of it unfolding is rooted in the interconnectedness of the all. And so I invite you to scoot back up there. Anytime you feel like it's slow or there's a delay or I don't know what to do next, I can't, there is no inspired action. Like, what am I supposed to do? Scoot back up to the interconnectedness of the all and connect with the others who are also being loved and expanded in the same way that you are through their own version of their part of this dream that you are seeing in your mind. You know, like, come back up to this bigger, expanded, infinite picture that, number one, it's possible. Number two, the timing is working out in a divine way. And it's really not for us to understand that. And the sooner we can make peace with that, the sooner we can just get back up in the frequency of how good it feels to know that we are absolutely walking towards a future that feels really good to us personally. Why? Because we took the time to imagine our best case scenario. And then we believed in ourselves enough to stretch it. Like, what would even just a little bit better than that be? And then we believed in ourselves enough to hold that frequency where that is real. We chose to grant ourselves the power of deciding that that is real. It's real because I'm going to point my, I only get a single point of focus in any given moment. I call that like the laser beam. Whatever you point the laser beam at, it gets bigger. And so I'm going to point my laser beam at this heaven on earth future that I can see in the 5D quantum infinite possibility dimension. Like I can see this. I can feel it, right? It's real to me because I can feel it. And I revisit it 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 because it feels good. And I stand on my leading stepping stone. I refuse to go backwards. I stand still and I emanate the frequency of this vision that feels so good. And another step shows itself to me, and another step shows itself to me, and another step shows itself to me, one at a time, spaced out in perfect alignment with the all that is impacted by what is going on in my personal reality, is also making waves and having ripple effects into other people's personal realities. And there's a gentleness, there's like a loving, or like a dominantly loving frequency of safety that's guiding the timing of this unfolding. We're all being subconsciously prepared. We're all getting ready to be able to co-create in harmony and really truly bring to life this fantastical vision of this future that feels so real. And if it feels real, then you can build it in the physical. And one tiny little piece of advice is that there is no rush. Okay? In your soul's mission, in the universe's timing, there is no rush. And being able to flow with the unfolding of the process and knowing what to do when the physical action is not required in this moment. And being able to then go on to the energetic plane with your creation. And if this is something that you are like totally vibing with and you hear every word I just said and are like, oh my God, I want to talk to her. Like, I hear that a lot. I would love to talk to you too. Okay, so I have something called an authenticity activation that is, yes, about authenticity, but it's a lot about this, the dance between the practical and the magical. And it's a free Zoom session that anybody can book. The link is also in the description box, owningauthenticity.com/activate. And that'll let you schedule a complimentary Zoom with me where we can totally talk about what is your vision? What would that look like for, standing on the leading stepping stone of where you are and emanating the frequency of your vision and even developing what is your vision. That's often where I start with my one-on-one clients, but that is also something that we can get into in the authenticity activation session of, developing the vision, holding the vision, and then allowing your practical abilities to light up with excitement over getting to build something that is so deeply meaningful to your heart. Okay, that is a joyful journey. And if you are already on it and you want to hang out with me for a little bit on Zoom and chat about it, if you're getting started and wanting to lean in more, whatever, okay, I would love to hang out and visit a little bit about what it is that you're creating in your dance between the magical and the practical. If I can be of support to you, that sounds absolutely like the most fun thing that I could do with my time. So please take me up on that if you're ready for that. Until next time, I do hope that you will take really, really good care of the extension of source energy that you are, and so will I.